Hello, Sevilla Morgan here. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to today's show. Before we get started, I would like to thank my sponsors and my supporters. A great big thank you to Morgan Air Conditioning, sales, service, and installation, proudly serving Tampa, Florida, and the surrounding areas. For assistance with your air conditioning needs, call Morgan Air at 813-500-7765. That's 813-500-7765. Thank you so much, Morgan Air, for seeing the vision and being a part of it. It is appreciated. Next, I would like to thank Alba Digital Media, audio production, web hosting, and web design. Alba Digital Media created my website and they produce my podcast. Visit Alba Digital Media at www.albadigitalmedia.com for assistance with media and production needs. That's www.albadigitalmedia.com. Thank you so much for Alba Digital Media for making me look good and sound good. I would also like to thank the owner of Edinburgh Dusters for assisting me with quality graphic assistance for my website and other social media content. It is greatly appreciated. Finally, I would like to thank the musical duo Devoted for creating my theme music. Contact Devoted at devotedministries@gmail.com for your music needs. That's devotedministries@gmail.com. Thank you so much, Devoted, for the beautiful music. I absolutely love it, and I'm sure the listeners do as well. Thank you for all your great work. If you would like information on becoming a one-time or ongoing sponsor, feel free to contact me at sevilla@sevillamorgan.com. That's sevilla@sevillamorgan.com. And for more information on my sponsors and supporters, go to my website, www.childlessnotbychoice.net. That's www.childlessnotbychoice.net. Scroll down to the very bottom, and you will see the links to my sponsors and supporters. Thanks again for listening, and now on to the show. Hello, everyone. This is Sevilla. Thanks for coming back and listening to another episode of 21st Century Hannah. I so appreciate you taking the time to listen. I especially want to thank those of you who are repeat listeners. I am truly humbled. Thank you so much for coming back to listen to more episodes. And remember to tell your friends about it. Feel free to share the show to your social media followers, and however you share that way. Word of mouth, social media, whatever it is that you do, share the show while you're talking about it. I have so many different people listening, even people who don't fit the demographic, especially people who do not fit the demographic of Childless Not by Choice. And that's what I really, really love, because yes, this show is for and about those who are childless not by choice, but it absolutely makes sense that people who don't fit the demographic are listening in, because that helps create awareness. So I just want to say thank you so very much for listening, whether or not you fit the demographic, and thank you so much for sharing and just letting everybody else know about what is going on. As you know, this show, 21st Century Hannah, is where my mission is to recognize and speak to the broken hearts of childless women around the world. I am spreading the great news that we can live a joyful and relevant life regardless of the fact that we could not have children. So, once again, thanks for sitting with me for just a little while. You know, I the name of this episode is Timeline. I don't know, but it seems, I don't know, the last couple of months I've been thinking to myself, I wonder if sometimes, and I wonder if it even matters, but I wonder if I'm confusing listeners with the timeline of when things happened for me. You know, when I went from realizing in my late 20s that something was wrong, And then I had my first surgery in, I think it was either 2000 or 2001. I have those records somewhere. So I guess I would say that my surgeries and my plight took place in the 2000s. And I just got to thinking, what is the timeline? And does it matter? And maybe you can tell me if it matters to you or not. I would love to hear from you. Drop me a note, a review in iTunes, or leave me a message on SpeakPipe right there from my website, or email me at savella@savellamorgan.com. So, but I've been wondering, does it matter? Does the timeline matter? And I'm going to go ahead and give it anyway, because I don't want anybody to ever think that I'm confused. I don't know how I could possibly be confused about surgeries. I could probably be confused about dates, but it's not because these are my experiences, and I'm not good with dates. I'm not good with time. Never have been. I have to write things down. I have a day timer. I've had a day timer since, oh my gosh, since I was in my early 20s. I've always been a to-do list day timer type of person. So I guess maybe because of that, I just relied so much on the day timer that my brain just doesn't keep time very well, unfortunately or fortunately, because I depend so much on the day timer. I guess it's kind of like now that we have cell phones, we don't have anybody's phone numbers memorized because everybody's in the phone, in the contacts list. You just click on the person's name and you hardly have any phone numbers memorized, where back in the day we had tons of phone numbers memorized. And so maybe it's like that for me. But the timeline, I just, wanted to go over that and just let you know that yes, I think it was in the pretty much the 2000s, all the way until 2011. So it was a little bit more than a decade, if I'm remembering everything correctly, that I spent trying to hang on, trying not to have that final surgery. And yeah, I have my records here, so any rustling of papers that you hear in the background, can't really edit that stuff out, but yeah, I have the papers, and I was looking, and at one point in that 11-year uh, time frame, I had a surgery in 2009, one in 2010, and then um, one in 2012, it looks like. No, 2011. Sorry, 2012. 2011 was the final surgery. So for a 3-year time period there, I was having a surgery almost every year. I guess that's how the fibroids were just coming back, um, you know, just coming back really badly. And I was just trying not to have that final surgery. And so, yeah, that's the timeline. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know if it really even matters, but for anyone who's listening who's thinking that, how long did this take? Is this something that she just went through a couple of years and then she just had the final surgery and that was the end of it? No, it was like an 11-year time span. It was an 11-year time span. And I don't know. I can think about it and kind of start to feel kind of down about the whole thing. Or I can just say, as a word of encouragement for any of you out there who are still hanging on, or maybe you are going through something, a slightly different path. Maybe it's IVF for you and you're still trying. I just want to say be encouraged. Be encouraged. Follow your path. Just because this was my path, it doesn't mean it's yours. It means that our paths may be similar. Some people are dealing with IVF, some are dealing with fibroids, some are dealing with endometriosis. Eh, The paths are in the same book, but not necessarily on the same page. So don't compare your path to anybody else's. Do what you think is best. Of course, talk to your doctor. If you don't feel like the doctor you're seeing currently is on the same page, in the same book, on the same page, get a second opinion. I've talked about that before. Get a second opinion, because if you end up having a hysterectomy, and then you realize that you probably, could have waited or not really needed it, but you went with what the first doctor said, you could, you can probably dwell on, did I make a mistake? Or what did I do? What have I done? Something irreversible. So, trust your gut, listen to what they're saying. If you're just not feeling a good vibe, get a second opinion, switch doctors, whatever you need to do. Now, remember, you're not switching doctors because you've switched 5 times and they've all said the same thing. I mean, just kind of think about what you're hearing. See if 5 different doctors are telling you the same thing. If you still have a gut feeling, well, go with your gut, but don't just try to hang on just to hang on for hang on's sake, because you still want to have a good quality of life. And the fact is, I will never tell anybody to go and do the same thing that I did, to go have a hysterectomy. That is such a personal decision. And I never want anybody to say, oh, Sevilla said that's the best course of action. Absolutely not. I am not a doctor. I am a person who had an experience, and I believe that my experience is similar to millions of women around the world. And so I decided to create a platform from scratch where I talk to and encourage women who are childless, not by choice. I just want to be a voice of encouragement and a creator of awareness. That is my role. So, yeah, I just wanted to go through the timeline and just let you know it was about a decade. Yes, it was about a decade of hoping and waiting and having surgery after surgery after surgery until I had the final surgery. And yes, as my doctor told me, my quality of life increased exponentially, but the mental and emotional took a little bit longer to catch up. And there's nothing wrong with that. And we all operate on different wavelengths and time frames. So don't rush yourself, but know the signs. Know if you need to speak to a professional, a psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever. Don't try to hold things in. And know that as much as your family members love you, they may not be able to help you the way you need to be helped. And that's why I always say talk to a professional. That's what they're there for. That's what they get paid for. And if you are afraid of speaking to a professional that maybe doesn't match your religious beliefs or whatever, I know that they have professionals and probably every religious sector and belief. So don't let that hold you back either. Just get it out and don't dwell and don't keep it inside of you, because that'll make you another type of ill, another type of sickness. And you just want to be able to, life is short. You want to be able to live your best life, best, most relevant and joyful life, regardless of the fact that you did not have children. We did not have children. Many millions of women around the world did not have children. And so do the best. I always say this too, do the best with what you have. Do the best with what you have. Everybody's going through something. And for some of us, it may not be visible what we're going through, and for others it is. But know that everybody's going through something. And, in my last episode, I spoke on shame, on the issue of shame. And, a lot of times we feel self-inflicted shame or shame brought on by others because we're childless. And yes, it's 2016, but that shame does exist in especially maybe some areas of the world more than others. But it exists. And if it exists for one woman in one country in the world, then it exists. And I want to get the word out that we have got to do better as a human race to be able to encourage each other and not shame each other. And I know there are a lot of people out there, and I truly believe that there are people who, if they inflict pain, or I'm sorry, shame, or well, pain too, if they inflict pain or shame on you, It's because they're going through something. And I said that in the last episode as well. A lot of times you've heard the saying, hurt people hurt people. And so you just want to be able to recognize those people and wish them the best, but make sure you have the right people around you, especially in the beginning of your journey when you realize maybe you will not be having any kids. You've got to have the right people around you, or it's going to take longer to heal. And I've always said, and I believe that I don't think there's 100% healing, but you get to be healed as much as you want to be healed, and you get to live the best life that you can, although you didn't get to have the children you wanted, and although even if you're not 100% healed, you're not dwelling on what didn't happen for you. You want to concentrate on helping others. I believe when you help others, when we help others, that's a part of the healing process, and that helps us to feel better when we're not dwelling on us, but helping others and dwelling on others, because as I said, other people are going through other things. And if you can help somebody have a better day, why not? Why dwell on what's going on with you when you can help somebody else have a better day? That's what humanity is all about. That's what it should be about. Trying to help each other, do the best for each other. There are so many negative things going on in our world right now. There are so many mean people on this planet that why not, not be on the mean side, but come over to the helpful side, the encouraging side, the awareness creating side, and help everybody that you can, do the best you can, and love yourself. Um, Take a trip, go on a vacation, go to the beach, just do something for you every once in a while, but do what you can to help others. And I think when we do that, that'll, get us to the point where it's more bearable, you know? The not being able to have children will be more bearable. And helping others is a strengthener, so that when those people come around who want to make you feel discouraged, they won't be successful, because you have strengthened yourself. You've strengthened yourself by encouraging yourself and by helping others. And I can't think of any other way to make yourself strong than to help others and encourage yourself. And then when those people come around, they keep hitting and digging and poking and nothing, no reaction, because you've been through so much and you've made it through. You're still alive. You're stronger every day. And they probably couldn't last a day in your shoes. And they just don't understand why they're not having the negative effect on you that they thought they would, or maybe they did in the past. So encourage yourself, strengthen yourself. I just wanted to stop by for a few minutes and, just as I said earlier, just tell you what the timeline was. It looks like, looking at my records, that it really was about a little more than a decade of waiting. I almost said suffering, but I'm not going to say that, because it was my decision to try to wait and hopefully um, meet Mr. Right and have a baby or two, but it didn't happen. And I'm glad I waited. I'm glad I tried. What if I hadn't tried? What if I had gone with the first? Well, see, that's part of the timeline. The very first doctor I saw, that did the fibroid removal, the myomectomy in the early 2000s, like 2000, 2001. He did the myomectomy, and he said, okay, now, now is the best time to go and get pregnant, because the fibroids are gone. And for those of you who don't know, fibroids are, they're, they grow from blood supply. So if you have fibroids and then you get pregnant, the fibroids are fighting the baby for for the blood supply. So to remove the fibroids and then run out and have a baby as quickly as you can is the plan, typically. But there was nobody in my life to have a baby with, and I didn't want to have one by myself. And so I was buying time. And then a few years later, I could feel them coming back again. They were really affecting me. And I won't get into details, but those of you who have fibroids probably know what I'm talking about. but they were affecting me again. They'd grown back a few years later. And this time, that doctor was gone. He had somebody running his practice. I think he had gone back into the military. I don't remember what war it was, early 2000s. I'm sure you guys can probably figure it out, but he wasn't there. So another doctor was filling in for him. And he's this doctor, which is the reason I never went back to that office. He said, I don't understand what you're doing. You just need to hurry and go have a child, have a baby before you get these fibroids back again. They're back again. And I never went back to his office. I found another doctor. And that doctor told me I needed to have a hysterectomy. And I wasn't okay with that. I wasn't okay with that. So I went for a second opinion. And the doctor I have now is my second opinion doctor. And he did another myomectomy on me. I think he did two more over the course of a few more years. And then he sent me to a robot doctor where the doctor used a robot to go in through my belly, my stomach, to um, to try to remove the fibroids mechanically. But after 4 hours, they were just removing scar tissue. They never did get to the fibroids, and they decided to just bring me back out after 4 hours. That, I think, was the most devastating of all of my surgeries. To know that they had me under for 4 hours and they tried to make their way to the fibroids, but there was so much scar tissue in the way that they weren't successful. I think that was in that whole period, and every surgery I felt down because I was going in for a surgery where they were removing fibroids, and in a couple of cases they had me in the same wing as women who had just delivered babies. So imagine that scenario. But I digress. That's another story for another day. But so that didn't work out, and then I think it was a couple months later. It was a couple months later because that was the 20, yeah, it was a few, maybe a year or so later that I ended up just having the hysterectomy. I at that point it didn't make any sense to try to remove the fibroids the regular way by being cut open again because the fibroid surgery is like a C-section. Again, another story for another day. They cut you the same way, except they're not taking a baby out of there, they're taking out fibroids. Again, a lot of psychological things that could really, those things that could mess with you if you allow it to. I had to really, I really had to battle against all the mental, emotional stuff. And as I mentioned before, I ended up after the hysterectomy in 2011 going to see a doctor, a psychologist or psychiatrist or whatever his official title was. And I went to see him for a few months and realized that's when he told me that I was grieving. That's why I was crying so much. I couldn't understand all the crying. And imagine, I have a very supportive family. I mean, my parents were very supportive, my sisters, my brother, um, my nephews, my in-laws. I have great support, but even so, they could never understand what I was dealing with. I had to go see somebody. I had to go see a professional. And that's why I keep talking about this. Don't try to heal yourself. Don't try to pretend all is well. You're not helping yourself or anybody else. If you need to speak to someone, a lot of companies in corporate America offer I can't remember what it's called, but they offer the assistance where if you need to go speak to somebody, like a psychologist or psychiatrist, that's covered. At least in part, it's covered. And I think a lot of people don't know that because maybe it's such a stigma that they're even afraid to call to find out. But I had to fight the stigma and just call and find out what the process was. And the people at that particular department were so nice. They were so easy to deal with. It was amazing. It was a great, the process was just really easy to deal with. And so I would really, strongly suggest that if you have problems where you just feel like nobody around you understands what you're dealing with, what you're going through, then go see someone, because it's not easy. It's the psychology of it all, the emotional, the mental. It's not easy. I don't care what anybody says. And I know there are people out there who say, "Oh, this hysterectomy was the best thing that I ever did." Okay, that's great. Okay, that's good for you. But there are some people who are just not dealing with it very well. And it doesn't mean that you're weak, because one thing I don't consider myself to be is weak. I am not a weak person. But I think what's wonderful is I know when I need help, and I'm not afraid to ask for it. I'm typically a self-sufficient person, but I also knew I didn't want to lose my mind, and I felt like I was losing my mind. And fortunately, this doctor told me that I was not losing my mind, I was grieving. And that's when the light bulb went on, and it made sense. And I still had to go through a whole process of just dealing and making decisions on whether or not to go to this baby shower or that baby shower, or whatever, and just not caring what people thought about if I didn't go, or I can't, you can't afford to wonder what other people are thinking. You've got to take care of yourself, make sure you're okay, and then when you're okay, then you can go be with other people. So, never put yourself aside and try to stick it out and go in and you know, and know that you're just not ready emotionally. Just go see a doctor. Do what's best for you. Life is short. Do the best you can. And if you do that, then you would be good company at the next baby shower that you're invited to. So just always think about what's best for you. It's not you're not being selfish. You're not being selfish. You're doing the right thing. There are a lot of people out there, a lot of women who are not healthy emotionally, and it manifests itself somehow, some way. You don't want to become a part of that statistic. And I'm not saying all this to scare you. I'm telling you that you're an intelligent woman. I'm sure you are. Wherever you are, wherever you're listening from, I know you are because you're listening to this podcast. So again, I'm not bragging, but if you are taking the time to listen uh, to my podcast, then you're an intelligent person because you want to know more. You want to know what's going on, you want to understand, and you want to get the help that you want to get. And then if you're not part of the demographic and you're listening, again, you just want to be aware. And I just love people who want to be aware and understand something that heretofore made no sense whatsoever to them. It wasn't in their, like people like to say these days, in their wheelhouse. It just never something anybody thought about, but now they're listening. I hear people tell me all the time. They tell me all the time, wow, I never knew. I didn't know. I didn't understand. And I get that all the time. And that is when I know that this platform is making sense and it was created for such a time as this. So thank you so much for listening. I'm feeling like we may revisit this again at some point in the future. But I think overall the message I wanted to get out, I think I got it out, and that was to create some kind of a timeline and just discuss the number of surgeries. And it's not because I want to be pitied. Um, Empathy is always a wonderful thing. Pity, not so much. No, thank you. So it's just for me to let you know that this is what happened in my case. If you're still trying, keep on keeping on. I'm praying with you and for you. I always do. And everybody else, hang in there. Whatever you're dealing with or going through, you hang in there. Because it may not be this, but it may be something else. And me, being the professional encourager that I am, I want to wish you all the best. Hang in there. Do the best with what you have. Life is short. Just keep on keeping on. Be encouraged. Be encouraged. Be encouraged. Until next time, have a great one. Bye.